Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Congenial, convivial, and amiable as always. Great to have you in the conversation. And again, do not forget that we've got this Thursday night. That's tomorrow night. We will be broadcasting the One Cry Prayer Summit on the National Day of Prayer. And you're liable to have a National Day of Prayer event in your own community. We have one here in our city on the steps of City Hall, where people gather from 12:20 to 12:40 to pray for revival to come to our nation. You likely have a National Day of Prayer event in your own community. Please check that out. We will be broadcasting the One Cry Prayer Summit tomorrow night, National Day of Prayer, right here on the American Family Radio Talk Network from 7 to 9 p.m. Erwin Lutzer, Nancy Lee DeMoss, Crawford Loritz. There'll be worship. There'll be scripture. Worship going to be led by Meredith Andrews and Matthew West, just to cry out to God for spiritual transformation in America. That's tomorrow night, 7 to 9 p.m. right here on the AFR Talk Network. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. One more clip on the Islam issue. This is from, we played one excerpt, one soundbite from this individual yesterday. He is a special ops individual, special ops guy. He is, they're masking his voice, and he's speaking from shadow because he's concerned about reprisals. And we've already seen from Vic Tenzing that this administration is hostile to anybody that will tell the truth about what went on in Benghazi. Now, this guy, the special ops guy, tells us that we know who the mastermind of the Benghazi attack is. And we know that he's walking around loose in Libya and that we are doing absolutely nothing about it. Let's listen.
We basically don't want to upset anybody. And the problem is, if Ambassador Stevens' family knew that we were sitting on information about the people who killed their son, their brother, and we could look them as a government in the face, then we're messing up. We're messing up. We have all the capability, all the training, all the capacity to kill and capture not only terrorists involved with the specific events of 9/11 and Ambassador Stevens' death, but terrorists who are feeding other regions, including Europe, that eventually could affect our national security in the short term. And we're not talking midterm or long term. This is a short term.
So, I mean, you can understand now why John Kerry and Barack Obama, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me that Barack Obama is trying to pretend he doesn't know anything about this. I never heard of that. Somebody, the word is, there's a word on the street that we're trying to keep people from testifying. I don't know anything about that. I haven't heard anything about that. I guess I've been too busy playing golf to pick up on that. That's just not credible to me whatsoever, any way, shape, or form. And here this special ops guy says, these people that are out there, we know who they are, we know where they are, we have the resources to take them out, and they represent a threat to our security in the short term. And we're not doing anything about it. So you can understand why, from Obama right on down, they do not want these people telling the truth, testifying to Congress. Let's grab a couple of phone calls, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Jim, Spring Hill, Florida. Jim, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Thank you for taking my call, Brian.
You bet, Jim.
I have real problems with what's going on in Christianity today. And you know what that is, don't you? We're not radical enough. I just listened to your predecessor on the television today, Buster Wilson, and somebody said that Obama is a thief and a crook, a thief and a I don't even know what, but I say.
But it wasn't good.
He's a liar, a thief, and you know what, Brian? Buster said that he can't say that. Well, you know what? Somehow or other, all of us have to say it. There is something wrong with us, not with them, with us.
And so you think that we need to be more vocal or more resolute? I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I'm with you on the need for the church to be the church and show some moxie and show some spine.
Do. And that means if we have to get killed for it, then so be it. If you're going to do that, you might as well take the mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the call, and there's certainly a call, for us to be, as believers, to be more resolute, more. I mean, if we believe what we believe is true for all people at all times, then we shouldn't hesitate to say that regardless of what the circumstances are, and that, I think, is the spirit that is really needed. Here is that piece from Andy McCarthy. He says this: there will be more to say about the findings of the newly released survey, The World's Muslim Religions, Politics, and Society. Of course, such revelations as the approval. Listen to this, and this goes back to our previous caller. Brian, I hope you were still listening, because this is the Pew Research Center. This is not a part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, and they're polling Muslims. So this isn't me talking about what Muslims believe. This is Muslims talking about what they believe. And it indicates that upwards of 2/3 of Middle Eastern Muslims approve of the death penalty for apostates. So, Brian, if you were listening, 2/3 of them, and that doesn't matter what you happen to think Sharia law teaches, that's irrelevant. Because the issue here is what Muslims believe Sharia law teaches. 2/3 of Middle Eastern Muslims believe that if you convert from Islam to Christianity, you should have your head cut off. Now, Brian, that's Sharia law in action. That's Muslims implementing their understanding of Sharia law. 1/3 of them approve of suicide bombings. 1/3 of them approve of blowing yourself up as long as you can take as many infidel Americans or whoever along with you. He says, what is striking, Andy McCarthy says, about the depressing state of affairs is manifest despite Pew's best efforts to make things seem better than they are. Principally, the survey is about Muslim views about Sharia. This goes right to your question, Brian. The survey is about Muslim views about Sharia, Islam's legal system and framework for society. It is intimated that Pew's study is exhaustive, involving interviews with 38,000 Muslims across 39 countries. So, Brian, this is representative of what Muslims understand Sharia law to be. And what McCarthy points out, Andrew Boston was the first one to say it, that 3 of the most Sharia-compliant countries in the world were not included in this survey. 150 million Muslims not included. The Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Sudan. You think that 2/3 of Middle Eastern Muslims approve of beheadings for conversion? I imagine the total's got to be higher in Iran, got to be higher in Saudi Arabia, got to be higher in the Sudan. This gaping omission invites the standard progressive fairy tale about Sharia, and Reuters does not disappoint. Here's the mainstream media, sound just like our friend Brian. Unlike codified Western law, Sharia is a loosely defined set of moral and legal guidelines based on the Quran. Its rules and advice cover everything from prayers to personal hygiene, kind of leaving out the part about cutting the heads off of apostates and infidels. In point of fact, Andy McCarthy says, Sharia is the law of Saudi Arabia and Iran. These countries profess themselves as reflections of the true Islam. Saudi Arabia from the Sunni perspective. So here you go, Brian. Saudi Arabia, that's Sunni. You're talking about all the different varieties of the Sunni faith. Saudi Arabia is they say this is the true form of Sunni faith right here. Iran from the Shiite side. Let's see if I'm going through this with you for the first time, so we're reading this kind of together. As I have repeatedly pointed out, there is a manual of Sharia law that has broad acceptance among Islamic supremacists, whose ideology is dominant in the Middle East. It's called the Reliance of the Traveler, and it's endorsed by the scholars at Al-Azhar University in Cairo, and which is where President Obama gave his speech to the Muslim world back in 2009, and by the International Institute of Islamic Thought. This was a think tank established by the Muslim Brotherhood. So if you got Muslim Brotherhood imprint, you're talking about genuine Islam here. Let's see if there's anything else in this article. Here's what it goes on to say. People are killed, maimed, imprisoned, ostracized, and tormented over failure to comply with the dictates of Sharia. Your First Amendment right to free speech is threatened because the Obama administration supports the supremacist campaign to impose Sharia blasphemy standards that forbid frank discussions of Islam. That's what's going on right now in the United States and apparently going on even in our United States military. Let's see if we can grab a quick phone call. Let's go to Leonard, Mobile, Alabama. Leonard, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. Earlier I heard you report about Saudi Arabia warning our Department of Homeland Security and the President of the United States.
That's correct.
About the bomber in Boston, and that really upset me, and I was about to fire off a letter to my representative and senators and demand that they initiate criminal negligence charges against the Department of Homeland Security and the President. Because, you know, if that's true, I think there's a strong case that they need to be prosecuted.
Well, this is unbelievable. You know, Leonard, the unbelievable thing to me, according to the Daily Mail, the Saudi Interior Minister traveled to the United States to personally meet with Barack Obama on January something 2013. Let me get the exact date on that. Again, this is according to Saudi, and warned Obama in person about this guy by name. Anyway, go ahead.
Let me give you an update. Before I fired my letters off, I decided to do some fact checking, and I Googled the story, and one of the first things that pops up is that it was reported in the Daily Mail, but hours later the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C. released a statement condemning the Daily Mail report as inaccurate, denying that they warned U.S. authorities about either brother.
Uh-huh.
And they're on record saying that it is not true and they didn't have any information, and that they're denying that either brother attempted to visit Saudi Arabia.
Do you believe him?
I don't know. That's why I'm trying to get the facts so before I go berserk about this report.
Yeah. Well, all we can say, Leonard, and I appreciate your caution there, all we can say is that this has been reported by the Daily Mail in the UK, that their source was a senior Saudi government official with direct knowledge of the document we are talking about. So again, we'll have to wait and see. I would expect the Saudis to deny any knowledge of this whatsoever. It doesn't surprise me that they would issue a denial. So we'll wait and see more information to come out. Thanks, Leonard. I appreciate the call. Focal Point, AFR Talk. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.